"They're demolishing my home at dawn," she said, standing on crutches in a room full of men who controlled the city. He didn't even look at her until she accused him of falsifying documents that would erase 300 families overnight. And when Seoul's most feared real estate kingpin finally stood up, she realized she had just made herself his next target. Emily Whitmore's voice cut through the boardroom like a blade, her crutches planted firm on marble floors that weren't built for bodies like hers. 12 men in tailored suits turned to stare, but only one mattered. Kang Min-ho, Seoul's most feared real estate kingpin, the man whose signature would erase 300 families by dawn. He still hadn't looked at her. "Mr. Kang," she said louder, her accent thick with exhaustion and fury, "I know you can hear me. I know you speak English, and I know exactly what you're planning to do to Dawan." Now he looked, and the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. The contract had been on the table for 20 minutes. Emily had translated every word of it in flawless Korean, while the executive smiled like she was furniture, decorative, invisible. They had no idea she lived in Building C, 4th floor, no elevator. They had no idea she'd been carrying groceries up those stairs on crutches for 3 years. And they definitely had no idea that page 47 contained the clause that would destroy her entire world. "You falsified the environmental impact report," Emily continued, her dark eyes locked on Kang Min-ho's face. She was the only black woman in a room built to exclude her, the only disabled person in a building with 3 steps at every entrance. 312 families live there. You know this, and you're doing it anyway. One of the younger executives made a choking sound. Kang Min-ho rose from his chair. He was tall, devastatingly so, and moved with the fluid control of a man who'd never been told no. His midnight blue suit probably cost more than 6 months of Emily's rent. His face was all sharp angles and cold beauty, the kind that made people forget he'd built his empire on other people's suffering. He crossed the room in 4 strides and stopped 2 feet from her, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and clean, close enough that she could see the exact moment he decided whether to destroy her or listen. "You're fired," he said softly. Emily had expected that. What she hadn't expected was what he said next. "But before you leave, tell me one thing, Miss Whitmore." His voice dropped, almost curious. "What makes you think I care about your home, about any of those people?" The honest answer sat on her tongue. "I don't think you care. That's the problem." But what came out changed everything. Because 3 months ago, you anonymously donated 2 million won to the Songbuk Medical Clinic, the one that provides free care to disabled residents. She watched his eyes widen. "I know because I volunteer there. I translated the thank you letter your assistant tried to bury." Kang Min-ho's expression cracked. Just for a second, but it was enough. "How did you—" "I pay attention," Emily said quietly. "It's what people like me have to do to survive in a world you built." Silence. Then Kang Min-ho did something that made her heart stop. He turned to his executives. "Everyone out." They fled, and when the door clicked shut, Emily was alone with the most dangerous man in Seoul, and she had no idea if she'd just saved her community or signed her own death warrant. "Sit," he said. "I'd rather stand." "You're in pain." It wasn't a question. Her fingers tightened on the crutch grips. "I'm always in pain, Mr. Kang. I've learned to work with it." Something flickered in his eyes, recognition maybe, or respect. He moved to the floor-to-ceiling windows. Seoul glittered below them, a city that devoured the weak and celebrated the powerful. The Dawan project is worth 300 billion won, 2,000 luxury units. It will transform the district by erasing everyone who made it a community in the first place. They'll be compensated. With money that won't buy them a closet in the Seoul you're building. Emily's voice was steel wrapped in silk. You're not relocating them, Mr. Kong. You're making them disappear. He turned, and for the first time, she saw exhaustion in his face. What would you have me do? The question sounded almost genuine. I'm a businessman, Miss Whittemore. This is what I do. You're also a man who donated 2 million won anonymously and made sure no one knew. She took a step closer, crutches clicking softly. So forgive me if I don't believe the heartless act. His jaw tightened. That donation was a crack in the armor, Emily finished, and I think you're terrified someone will see it and realize your entire empire is built on pretending not to care. The words hung between them like a lit fuse. Kang Min-ho crossed her in 2 strides, too close, close enough that her breath caught. You don't know anything about me, he whispered. Then enlighten me. His eyes searched hers, and she saw something that shocked her. Fear. Before she could name it, his phone buzzed. He glanced down, and his entire face changed, from vulnerable to ice in a heartbeat. Leave, he said urgently, right now. You already fired me. I'm not talking about the job. His voice was almost protective. There are people who will know you heard that conversation, people who won't ask questions before they eliminate problems. Go home, pack, disappear. Emily's blood ran cold. What are you talking about? Kang Min-ho looked at her, and she saw the truth written across his face. He was trying to save her. But from what? Go, he said again, and then the lights went out. In the sudden darkness, his hand found her arm, gentle despite the urgency. Stay with me, he whispered, and whatever happens next, don't let go. Emergency lights bathed the boardroom in red. Kang Min-ho's grip on Emily's arm tightened, not hard, just secure. Her crutches had clattered to the floor when the power died. Now she balanced against him, pain shooting up her spine. Can you walk? His voice was steady, controlled. Not fast. Then we move carefully. He retrieved her crutches, handed them to her with surprising gentleness. Service exit. Behind that panel. Stay quiet. Who cut the power? Someone who wants to send a message. His eyes were hard. That I can't protect you. The hidden panel opened with a soft click. Gray concrete corridor, fluorescent backup lights, the smell of fear disguised as cleaning solution. They moved together, his hand hovering near her back, not touching but ready to catch her if she fell. Why are you helping me? Emily whispered. Kang Min-ho was silent for 3 steps. My sister, Ji-hyun, she had cerebral palsy, died when she was 14 because our family chose empire over her care. His voice went flat. The father called her weakness, a liability. I was 17 and believed him. Emily's chest tightened. The clinic donation, she said softly, was for every Ji-hyun the world throws away. He stopped at a junction, listening. And you, standing in that boardroom, demanding I see what I've been ignoring, you reminded me of her. The courage it takes just to exist in spaces designed to erase you. They reached a service elevator. He pressed the button, positioned himself between her and the corridor. The Darwin Project, Emily said. If you know it's wrong, I can't stop it alone. His frustration was raw. There are 7 board members. 4 of them want this development more than their next breath. If I oppose them openly, they remove me, and then they build it anyway, except without any concessions for the families. So you're choosing the lesser evil? I'm choosing survival while I figure out how to burn the whole system down. He looked at her. Or I was, until you walked in and forced my hand. The elevator opened. They stepped inside. What happens now? Emily asked. Now I get you somewhere safe. Then I go back and convince them you're not a threat. His thumb brushed her knuckles, brief, electric. And I start planning how to actually stop Dawan. With me? He met her eyes. If you'll trust a man who's done nothing to earn it. The elevator descended into uncertainty. When the doors opened to the parking garage, a black sedan waited, engine running, driver stone-faced. CO will take you to a safe location. Stay there, don't contact anyone. I'll reach you within 24 hours. Emily hesitated at the car door. What if they figure out you helped me? Let me worry about that. Kong Min-ho. He turned back, and the vulnerability in his face nearly broke her. I spent 10 years becoming everything my father wanted, ruthless, profitable, untouchable. You walked into my boardroom and reminded me I used to want to be good. His voice cracked. Don't let me lose that again. Then he was gone, swallowed by shadows and duty. And Emily wondered if she'd just made an ally or fallen for a beautiful lie. The safe house was a studio apartment in Hongdae, small, clean, anonymous. CO had handed her the keys and vanished without a word. Now Emily sat by the window, watching Seoul's neon pulse, and waited for a call that might never come. It came at 2:47 a.m. Are you safe? Kang Min-ho's voice, rough with exhaustion. Defined safe. Alive, unharmed, not being followed. Then yes. Emily gripped the phone tighter. What happened? I convinced them you panicked and ran, that you're not a threat, just a scared translator who stumbled into information she didn't understand. He paused. They're looking for you anyway, just to be sure. Her stomach dropped. Who are they? Lee Sang-min, head of the Book-song faction, real power behind Han Song. My father's old partner, the man who actually owns my empire. You don't control your own company? I control the public face. Lee controls the foundation. Bitter laugh. The Dawan project is his. He's using Han Song to displace families and funnel the land to shell corporations he owns. 3 times the profit, all off the books. Emily closed her eyes. So we've already lost. No. Steel in that single word. I found something tonight. Financial records linking Lee's shell companies to the falsified environmental reports. Proof of fraud that could kill the project. Where are these records? Lee's private office, Han Song headquarters, executive floor. You want to break into your own building. I want you to help me. His voice softened. You read Korean financial documents better than anyone on my staff. I need someone who can identify the right files in under 10 minutes, someone Lee's people won't expect. Someone expendable. Someone brave enough to walk into a boardroom on crutches and challenge a man who terrifies trained professionals. I'm not asking you to be expendable, Emily. I'm asking you to help me save 300 families. The use of her first name did dangerous things to her heart. When? Tomorrow night, Sunday, minimal security. I'll disable the cameras, 12-minute window. And if we're caught? Silence. Then, Lee will make an example of both of us. Emily thought of Mrs. Park, who shared kimchi and stories, of Junho, the teenager who dreamed of designing accessible buildings, of every face that would be erased if she did nothing. I'm in, she said. She heard him exhale, relief or fear, maybe both. Siu will pick you up at 9 p.m. Wear dark clothes, comfortable shoes. I wear leg braces and use crutches. Comfortable is relative. Then wear whatever lets you move fast if things go wrong. His voice dropped. And Emily, thank you for giving a damn when you had every reason not to. The line went dead. Emily stared at her reflection in the dark window. She'd just agreed to commit corporate espionage with a man she'd known for 36 hours. A man whose eyes held ghosts. A man who was either her salvation or her destruction. And the terrifying part? She was already starting to care which. The Hansong building stood like a monument to everything wrong with Seoul. Glass and steel and the quiet violence of erasure. Emily adjusted her crutches, heart hammering against her ribs. Kang Min-ho waited by the service entrance, dressed in black. Without the tailored suits, he looked younger, almost vulnerable. "Last chance to change your mind?" he said. Fair. He led her through maintenance corridors, the skeleton beneath Han Song's polished skin. He moved with absolute certainty, and she realized he'd been planning this much longer than 3 days. "How long have you been waiting to move against Lee?" Emily asked. "Since my father's funeral, 3 years ago." His voice was flat. "Lee showed me the contracts that proved he owned 40% of everything I'd inherited. Every major decision requires his approval. Every profit gets split." He stopped at a maintenance elevator. "I've been buying out smaller shareholders ever since, slowly, quietly. I'm 2 votes short of controlling the board." The elevator rose in tense silence. "What happens if Lee discovers what we're doing?" Emily whispered. "He forces me out, accelerates Dawan's demolition, buries the evidence." Kang Min-ho's jaw tightened. "And comes after you to send me a message about the cost of betrayal." Sounds like great odds. He looked at her then, really looked, and something raw flickered across his face. "I won't let him touch you," he said quietly. "You can't promise that." "I can promise I'll fight him with everything I have to keep you safe." His hand found hers briefly. "You're not just a means to an end, Emily. You're—" The elevator stopped. The doors opened onto darkness. Kang Min-ho pulled out a penlight, its beam cutting through shadows. The executive floor was beautiful in the dark, all glass and expensive art, and city lights spreading below like fallen stars. Lee's office was at the far end. Kang Min-ho swiped a keycard. The lock beeped green. Inside, the office was pristine. Minimalist desk, leather chairs, and behind a painting of mountains, a wall safe. He went straight to it, fingers flying across the keypad. "How do you know the combination?" Emily breathed. "Watched him open it 6 months ago. Photographic memory." The safe clicked open. "Some skills are useful when you're planning a coup." Inside, folders, drives, documents that could end empires. Emily photographed everything with the phone he'd given her. Land acquisition forms with forged signatures, environmental reports with falsified data, inspector approvals that never happened. "This isn't just Dawan," she whispered, horror creeping into her voice. 4 other neighborhoods, over 1,000 families." Kang Min-ho's face went hard as stone. Then footsteps echoed in the hallway. They both froze. A voice, deep, authoritative. "Security reported a camera glitch on this floor. Check every office." Kang Min-ho closed the safe with infinite care, repositioned the painting, then pulled Emily toward the office's second door, leading to a private conference room. They slipped through just as the main lock beeped. In the darkness, pressed against the wall, Emily felt Kang Min-ho's breath against her hair. "South stairwell. When I say go." "We leave together," her voice was fierce, "or not at all." His hand tightened on hers, and in that moment, everything changed. This wasn't just about Dawan anymore. The voices in Lee's office faded. Kang Min-ho counted to 60 in the darkness, his thumb tracing unconscious circles on Emily's palm. Then, now. They moved through the conference room like ghosts. The south stairwell was empty, fluorescent lit, smelling of disinfectant and fear. Emily's crutches echoed with each descending step. 4 floors, 8 flights. Her spine screamed protest, but she didn't slow down. At ground level, Seo's car waited in shadows. They didn't speak until they were 6 blocks away. "We did it," Emily breathed. Kang Min-ho was scrolling through the photos, his expression darkening with each image. "What's wrong?" she asked. He handed her the phone, pointed to a document near the end. Emily's blood turned to ice. The final demolition approval for Dawon, the signature that would seal 300 families' fate. Signed by Kang Min-ho. "I didn't sign this," he said, voice hollow. "It's your signature." "Forged. My hand, but not my pen." He looked gutted. "Lee's been planning this for months. If these photos go public, I'm the face of the fraud, the villain, and he walks away clean." "But the other documents prove—" "Any prosecutor Lee controls will claim I'm framing him. Desperate CEO trying to cover his own corruption." Kang Min-ho's hands curled into fists. "He's not just destroying Daewon, he's destroying me." The car pulled into an underground garage. Different building, different safe house. Inside, Kang Min-ho paced like a caged animal, while Emily sank onto the couch, exhaustion winning against adrenaline. "There has to be another way," she said. "There isn't." His voice cracked. "Lee owns the prosecutors, the inspectors, the media. We have evidence that incriminates me as much as him." "But the other documents prove—" "Any prosecutor Lee controls will claim I'm framing him. Desperate CEO trying to cover his own corruption." Kang Min-ho's hands curled into fists. "He's not just destroying Daewon, he's destroying me." The car pulled into an underground garage. Different building, different safe house. Inside, Kang Min-ho paced like a caged animal, while Emily sank onto the couch, exhaustion winning against adrenaline. "There has to be another way," she said. "There isn't." His voice cracked. "Lee owns the prosecutors, the inspectors, the media. We have evidence that incriminates me as much as him." "Then we find someone he doesn't own." Kang Min-ho stopped, turned. "Who?" "Independent journalists, international media, housing activists who've been fighting corporate displacement for years." Emily's mind raced. "We make this too big for Lee to contain, release everything publicly, force an investigation he can't control." "That exposes me, too. I'll lose Hansong, possibly face charges." "Would that be so terrible? Losing an empire built on your father's crimes, starting over with something clean?" He stared at her like she'd offered him salvation and damnation in the same breath. "I've spent 10 years trying to redeem my family's legacy from the inside," he whispered. "You're asking me to burn it down." "I'm asking you to choose who you want to be." Silence stretched between them, heavy with possibility and terror. Then Kang Min-ho crossed to her, knelt in front of the couch, took her hands in his. "I'm falling for you," he said quietly. "A woman I've known 4 days. A woman who walked into my boardroom and refused to be invisible, who saw through every wall I've built and demanded I be better." His voice broke. "And I'm terrified that choosing you means losing everything." Emily touched his face gently. "What if choosing me means finding something worth keeping?" He leaned into her touch, eyes closing. "If we do this, if we expose everything, there's no going back." "Then let's go forward." He kissed her then, desperate and reverent and full of fear, like she was the first real thing he'd let himself want in years. When they pulled apart, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He opened the message and every trace of warmth drained from his face. He showed her the screen. I know what you took. Return the files by midnight, or day one demolition starts at dawn, and Miss Whitmore becomes headline news. Translator dies in tragic accident. Emily's hands started shaking. Lee knew, and the clock had just started counting down to catastrophe. If you are watching right now, subscribe now if you need to know how this ends. Comment if your heart is breaking. And hold on tight. Here we go. Emily read the message 3 times. Tragic accident. Clinical. Sterile. A death threat dressed in business language. I'm turning myself in, she said. No, Kang Min-ho's voice was steel. He's threatening to demolish Dawan at dawn. He's going to do that anyway. Lee doesn't negotiate, Emily. He eliminates problems. Kang Min-ho grabbed his jacket. We're leaving Seoul tonight. I have people in Busan who can hide us until... Run? Her voice rose. You want us to run while 300 families lose everything? I want you alive. The words ricocheted off the walls. Kang Min-ho turned away, breathing hard. When he spoke again, his voice was raw. I've already lost everyone I couldn't protect. My sister, my mother, she left because she couldn't survive my father's world. His shoulders shook. I'm not losing you, too. Emily's heart cracked at the pain bleeding through his words. Then don't run from this, she said softly. Fight with me. Fight with what? He has the evidence, the power, every advantage. He spun to face her. We have nothing. We have the truth. The truth gets people disappeared in Lee's world. Maybe, Emily stood, using her crutches to close the distance between them. But I've spent my entire life being erased by architects who don't build ramps, by employers who don't accommodate, by a city designed to exclude me. Her voice strengthened. And I'm still here, still standing, because I refuse to be invisible. She touched his face gently. I'm asking you to stand with me, not for me. Kang Min-ho's eyes were haunted. If we challenge Lee publicly, there's no protection I can offer, no guarantee we survive. I've never had guarantees, she held his gaze, but I'd rather fight and lose than surrender without trying. For a long moment, he just looked at her, this woman who'd walked into his empire on crutches and demanded he be better. Then his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered on speaker. Mr. Kang, Lee Sang-min's voice was smooth as poison. I assume you've received my message. I have. Good. Then you understand your position. Return the files. Resign from Hansan quietly. Disappear with your translator. I might let you both live. Might? Emily said before she could stop herself. Silence. Then Lee laughed, cold and cutting. Miss Whitmore, the woman who started this mess. Tell me, Miss Whitmore, was it worth it, challenging me in that boardroom, fighting for people who can't fight back? Yes, Emily said clearly. Brave, stupid but brave. His voice turned to ice. Your neighbors in Dawan will be homeless by noon tomorrow, and you have only yourself to blame for making this personal. The words hit like physical blows. Leave her alone, Kang Min-ho said. This is between us. No, this is about power, about teaching lessons. Lee's voice hardened. You have until midnight. After that, demolition crews move in, and Miss Whitmore's tragic accident becomes tomorrow's cautionary tale. The line went dead. Emily sank onto the couch, the weight of failure crushing her chest. I destroyed them, she whispered. I tried to save Dawan, and instead I... No. Kang Min-ho knelt in front of her, gripped her hands. Lee destroyed them years ago. You just refused to let it happen quietly. His voice was fierce. "And we're not done." "We have 4 hours and no plan." "Then we make one." His eyes blazed. "Lee thinks we're cornered, desperate, broken." He stood, pulled out his laptop. "Let's show him what desperate people can do when they stop playing by his rules." Kang Min-ho's fingers flew across the keyboard. "What are you doing?" Emily asked. "Finding leverage." His jaw was set. "Lee's entire operation depends on secrecy. If we expose him publicly, make it too big to bury, he controls the media." "Traditional media, not independent journalists, not international outlets, not the activists who've been documenting corporate displacement for years." He turned the laptop toward her. "We give them everything, every document, every forged signature, upload it everywhere simultaneously before Lee can stop the spread." Emily's pulse quickened. "That exposes you, too, your forged signature." "So I hold a press conference first, confess everything before Lee can spin it." His voice was steady despite the enormity of what he was proposing. "I admit my family's crimes, every compromise I've made, and I announce I'm testifying against Lee Sang-min, publicly, voluntarily." "He'll retaliate." "With enough public attention, he can't make us disappear quietly. And I've been building a network for 3 years. Investors who want clean business, board members tired of Lee's control, prosecutors who haven't been bought yet." Kang Min-ho pulled up a contact list. "They've been waiting for someone to move first, to prove Lee isn't untouchable." Emily stared at the names on screen, dozens of them. "You've been planning a revolution," she breathed. "I've been planning survival, but you showed me survival isn't enough, not when people are suffering." He looked at her, and something in his eyes made her chest tight. "You made me remember I used to believe in justice." She thought of Mrs. Park, of Junho, of every family counting down to dawn. "Do it," she said. They worked through the night. Emily translated documents into English for international media. Kang Min-ho drafted his confession, each sentence stripping away another layer of protection, another piece of the armor he'd worn for 10 years. At 4 a.m., he called a journalist named Park Soo-jin, someone who'd been investigating corporate fraud for a decade. "I have evidence of systematic housing displacement across Seoul," Kang Min-ho said. "Falsified reports, forged permits, 4 neighborhoods already demolished, over 1,000 families displaced." He paused. "And I'm willing to testify against Lee Sang-min, on the record." Silence on the other end. Then, "I'll need verification, full documentation, and you understand what you're risking." "Everything." Kang Min-ho looked at Emily. "But some things are worth the risk." "Send me the files. I'll have the story live in 4 hours." They uploaded everything, sent encrypted emails, made calls to activists, international journalists, housing advocates. By 6 a.m., the evidence was spreading through networks Lee couldn't control fast enough. At 7 a.m., Kang Min-ho's phone exploded with notifications. The story was live. "Hansung Air exposes corruption. I'm testifying against the man who owns Seoul." Emily read the article, hands trembling. Everything was there. Lee's shell corporations, the forged documents, 4 demolished neighborhoods, 1,000 displaced families, and Kang Min-ho's full confession, holding nothing back. "We did it," she whispered. Kang Min-ho's phone rang, Lee's number. He answered, put it on speaker. "You just destroyed yourself," Lee hissed. "No," Kang Min-ho said calmly. "I just freed myself and exposed you. You think the public cares? You think this changes anything?" "I think," Kang Min-ho said, "that you're about to find out what happens when people finally see who you really are." He hung up. and pulled Emily into his arms, careful of her balance, gentle despite the adrenaline. "What happens now?" she asked. He pressed his forehead to hers. "Now we find out if light really does beat darkness." By noon, Seoul was on fire, not with flames, but with fury. Protests erupted outside Hansung headquarters. Residents from 4 demolished neighborhoods stood with Daewon families, holding signs, demanding justice. News helicopters circled. International outlets picked up the story. Lee Sang-min couldn't make it disappear. Emily watched from the safe house, her phone flooded with messages. Former neighbors, activists, journalists requesting interviews. Then a call that changed everything. "Miss Whitmore, Prosecutor Han Ji-woo, I've reviewed your evidence. We're opening a formal investigation into Lee Sang-min and freezing all Hansong development projects immediately." Emily's knees nearly buckled. "Daewon?" "Demolition suspended, indefinitely." She covered her mouth, tears streaming. When she told Kang Min-ho, he closed his eyes like a man who'd been holding his breath for years. "It's not over," he said quietly. "Lee still has resources." But that afternoon, 3 board members resigned. By evening, investors were pulling funding from Lee's shell corporations. At 8 p.m., the news broke. Lee Sang-min arrested on fraud charges. Kang Min-ho stared at the headline, disbelief written across his face. "We actually did it," he whispered. Emily took his hand. "You chose this. You chose justice." "We chose this." He turned to her, walls finally crumbling. "I spent 3 years planning to dismantle Lee's empire piece by piece, but I was still playing his game, still operating in shadows." His voice cracked. "You walked into that boardroom and demanded I be better, and you saved me." "What happens to Hansong now?" "Emergency board vote tomorrow. I'll likely be removed as CEO, given my testimony." He smiled, genuine and free. "But I'll control my own shares, and there are good people ready to rebuild into something legitimate, something that doesn't devour families to build empires." "And you?" "I'll testify, help undo the damage my family caused." He pulled her closer, careful of her balance. "And if you'll let me, I'd like to spend whatever comes next with the woman who taught me that courage looks like showing up even when the world wasn't built for you." Emily's heart felt too full. "I'm not going anywhere," she said softly. He kissed her then, gentle and reverent and full of promises. 6 months later, Emily stood in the newly renovated Daewon Community Center, watching children play in Seoul's first fully accessible playground. Ramps connected every level, wide pathways accommodated wheelchairs and crutches, design been included instead of excluded. Kang Min-ho had funded it with his remaining personal fortune. Mrs. Park approached with fresh hotek. "The elevator changed my life. Junho wants to study architecture now, says he'll design buildings for everyone." Warmth bloomed in Emily's chest. Kang Min-ho entered, no designer suits anymore, just simple clothes that made him look lighter, freer. He'd resigned from Hansong officially, but retained voting shares. The company was being restructured under ethical leadership. Lee Sang-min was awaiting trial. 3 prosecutors had been arrested alongside him, and Kang Min-ho had avoided charges in exchange for full cooperation and testimony. "Ready?" he asked Emily. They walked through Dawon streets together, streets that would remain standing. The prosecution had invalidated all of Lee's developments. Families were being compensated. New projects were being planned with community input. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. At their favorite cafe, Emily shared news. I got the consultant position, city's new accessibility task force, making sure future developments actually include disabled residents from the planning stage. Kang Min-ho's face lit up. That's incredible. It's because of you. Your testimony changed policies. It's because of you, he corrected gently. You showed me what real courage looks like. They sat in comfortable silence, watching Seoul move around them. Do you regret it, Emily asked, giving up the empire? I spent my whole life carrying my father's legacy like chains. He took her hand. You helped me realize I could just step out of it entirely, build something new, something mine. He smiled. I'm consulting now, helping companies implement ethical practices. It's small, but it's real. And I've been working with Daewon residents on a community development proposal, actual partnerships, not displacement. Emily's throat tightened. This man who'd been raised in violence and power, choosing compassion instead. I love you, she said suddenly. His eyes widened, then softened into something beautiful. I love you too, he said. From that first moment you challenged me, I think I've been falling. He kissed her, and it tasted like new beginnings. When they pulled apart, Emily looked at the city that had tried so hard to erase her. She was still here, still fighting, still winning, and she wasn't alone anymore. My loves at Hearts and Soul, thank you for this journey. Emily and Kang Min-ho's story remind us that justice is possible when we choose courage over silence, and that love grows strongest when built on shared values and fierce hope. Tell me in the comments what moment shattered your heart. And if you're not already subscribed, join our family. There are so many more stories of love, justice, and redemption waiting for you.